I'm never playing bladderburst with you. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so during the break, I was doing some research on units per acre for row homes and townhomes. So I think we really should reconsider what we did before and change it to 25 units per acre. It really is impractical to build townhomes or row houses at 30 units per acre.
I'm all for using consistent scheme across the board.
What does that mean?
If it's 25, then let's go with 25. If townhomes, we are expecting 25 per acre, then that's what should be across the board.
Okay, so I will first make a motion to rescind the previous motion of 30 units per acre. So is that the right approach, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, that's appropriate. Or it could be a motion to reconsider, right?
Right, motion to reconsider. Wait, can I switch it to 25 in the same motion or what? Or do I do two motions?
I mean, unless there's going to be confusion among these commissions here, I think you can do both and reconsider to substitute 25 for 30.
Okay, I'll do that then. I'll make a motion to reconsider to change 7A from 30 down to 25 units per acre based on the fact that 30 units per acre would not be practical for townhomes, which apparently, that's what we prefer on that site. So is there a second or a discussion?
No, is that just for that, or is it, are we going to go revisit all the ones that had 30?
So Pew, which did have 30? Is that the one on Stevens Creek?
Let me see.
That we split into. Did we split into 50 and 30? Or did we split into 50 and 25? I can't recall.
The one on South D'Anza, you did 50 and 30.
Correct.
The other side, on the east side, you did 50 and 25.
25, yeah.
But there are quite a few 30s on
Correct.
in other locations.
The 30s are meant to be more like you said, like condo style, podium parking style developments, not necessarily just all townhomes. I mean, even some of those podium units are called townhomes. They're just attached podium style.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's true that. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. There are those podium. Sorry, go ahead, Ray. But
my perspective on 30 DU is that you'd have some townhomes, you'd have some podiums, you'd have some condos be able to sit there, right? Sometimes you have multi-story units, townhomes. Sometimes you have single-story. Like you see those kind of mixed types more and more in developments. But that was my thought. So.
But for that, the property has to be big, right? Not on half-acre properties. You cannot mix up all those things that you're talking about.
I would like to confirm something with Pew, if I might.
Okay.
Which is that for affordable housing, isn't 30 dwelling units per acre sort of a minimum density?
Andy can help answer that question.
Pardon?
That's right. That is the proxy within Santa Clara County. So for any site that you enable less than 30 dwelling units per acre, we cannot assume that affordable housing will be located at those particular sites.
And so I guess that seems to go in the opposite direction of a lot of what we're trying to do with the housing element, which is to include units for all incomes and abilities. And so a thing that occurs to me, I mean, within our below market rate housing, we do have for purchase, if you're going to build this many houses, you build one affordable unit. And if you are doing rentals, it's X number of units, you have to do so many. And I don't know how that squares with DU per acre.
Right. I mean, usually, again, David can help me with this, but for the rental housing usually happens more at the higher densities. than at the lower densities, whereas for sale housing occurs at the lower densities. So even if they were part of our BMR program, the lower densities would generate our moderate and median income level units, whereas the rental development would generate the VLI and the LI units. But with that said, in order to use the default density to account for a site as the very low income site, our default densities must be 30 dwelling units per acre at a minimum. What that will generate, you know, of course, we can tailor that. Not all sites have to be at the VLI level, which, for example, that site on Evulic doesn't necessarily have to be at the VLI level, but townhomes by definition are a little more affordable than single family homes are. And so even if it was set to 25 dwelling units to the acre, they would be in the grand scheme of things more affordable than a single family home.
And I do understand the point about in the grand scheme of things being more affordable. However, we are doing it more in the legal scheme of things, which is that we have to hit certain targets, and people that earn certain amounts of money can apply to be in these homes, but cannot. But people that earn more than that cannot apply to be in those homes, and it's a very, very specific. And so I guess it occurs to me, I have not been keeping a running total of how are we tracking with the actual goal of.
That's where Andy comes in.
Is that where Andy comes in? Hi, Andy. Thank you.
Hi. Chair, prior Chair Cunningham.
Okay.
It is important for us to think about this graphically, like with the map. So when we think about east versus west, it's discussed. We do have much fewer sites on the west side of town that reach this 30 dwelling units per acre. So we do want to try to distribute the affordable, this proxy default density as affordable units throughout the community as much as possible. So if we have a site that's as large as this, it may be in the city's best interest to retain the 30 dwelling unit per acre as this possibility, because there are so few possibilities on the west side.
Right.
Yeah, otherwise, you know, we are saying, you know, low income housing, you know, they cannot, they shouldn't live on 7A. That's a statement.
What was your statement?
So if you reduce it, you know, from 30 to 25 for 7A, pretty much, you know, we are saying, you know, low income housing is not eligible to be built there.
Well, I know, but we weren't talking that we were trying to limit people, blah, blah, blah. But certainly by indicating that they can build at 30, that means that they would be able to include low-income housing.
Commissioner Cunningham, that was my intent. So to leave a 30 DU there to enable lower income categories to be available. I believe there's sites when we accommodate lower income housing, we have default densities, and I thought it was 30, which was the suggestion. It could be a range, I don't know. Maybe we can check with the staff, right? And moderates at a different range, like 10 to 20 typically. Above moderates typically 5 to 10, and you know, parking is a whole other issue. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, those are good points, Commissioner Cunningham and Wong. In light of that, maybe we just should not change what we already approved, because we really do want some low-income housing in that part of town. And if it has to be, I was looking at a development in Palo Alto that's it's kind of townhouses, but they're kind of stacked. They're 2-story, at least the upper, you know, there's a 2-story above a 1-story. And I could actually, let's see, can I share my screen here and show you what I was talking about? Okay. Right. It's these, I know someone that lives here, and this is in downtown Palo Alto, and they managed to, you know, build at higher density, probably around 30 units per acre by doing it this way. And it's still, yeah, I mean, it looks nice. And, but you know, you can see that stairway there, you go up, and then you've got 2-level townhomes above single-level flats. And you're still at, I don't know, it's 3 stories. So what is that? 45 feet or so. And then in the parking is in the back. it's kind of underneath underneath the 2-level units. So I guess the bottom ones are much smaller.
Those are about 1,100 square feet units, if I remember.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to stop the share. So yeah, so I guess we should try it. Maybe keep it at 30. Let's go to the other commissioners. Let's go to Tessa.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I just, yes, I propose that we keep it at 30, and also keep in mind that a lot of people that have single-family homes is sized down. We need to provide them 2 bedrooms, 1,100 square feet condos to live in. Los Altos has plenty of condos, luxury condos that there's high density. And so there's nothing, like I said, Los Gatos has them. There's nothing wrong with having condos. And if it provides us with some low-income housing, then great.
All right, great. Govind.
I think I got my answer, so I didn't need to say anything.
All right, great. Okay.
I go real quick. I want to add to Tessa's point. Prop 19 housing is very useful if we want to free up some single family homes for other folks. And back to Tessa's point, that's amazing.
That's a very good point, because, you know, there's seniors living in homes that are too big for them, but they don't want to rent for the rest of their lives. And, you know, I come from Florida, and the progression there is you sell your single family home and you move into a condo, you know, a 55 plus condo, and, you know, it's more manageable. You have no maintenance. You've got other people the same age to do things with. And we don't really have that in this area because there's very few for sale adult only communities. And I mean, this wouldn't be adult only, but it would be a suitable place to move if someone chose to. And Prop 19 does encourage that. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to Andy. Let's move on to the next one. How many do we have left?
We only have 2 left.
Okay, we might finish before midnight. Okay.
Yeah. Garden Gate and Crestland Fallop, so it's not a whole lot. And I do want to just, if I could just add on one more thing, it's beneficial to go with a higher density as we go into the environmental review, so that way there's still an ability, if desired, to scale back down. But once that environmental review gets started, it's a lot more effort to ramp something up in the midstream.
Okay, so we are on to which number?
We are on to number 3 now, Garden Gate, for a total of 22 units. We have 1 tier 2 that we're going to ignore, and we've got 3B.
Right, only one. Okay, there's only 1 tier 1.
Correct.
Okay, and that's a P-res. Okay.
And this is a site that doesn't have its own parcel number, and that's because it's an existing portion of a right-of-way.
Oh, wait, is this the site where there was a proposal for the housing for developmentally disabled?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Mary Avenue.
Right.
This is a narrow strip right next to the freeway and right next to the dog park. Okay.
There is on-street parking at this point in that.
Yeah.
The last I had heard was that an RFP was going out on that.
Isn't this city-owned?
This is the city-owned property, correct?
Okay.
Right, and there was interest, I think, by Rotary to manage this project, and I don't know if it's moved on to a nonprofit housing developer or what.
Not yet. I think Commissioner Cunningham is correct. We are developing an RFP to figure out what exactly we want built. I think the site that kind of comes out from this is fairly shallow. It's about between 35 and 39 feet wide, but it might be adequate for the purposes that.
Right. Okay.
So is this something that we can influence, to be more like, the low income, that kind of housing, because it's city-owned property, right? Like 100%.
I believe the city can dispose of the property to meet its goals and purposes.
Yeah.
Right. This was supposed to be well, I shouldn't say supposed to be, but it was planned to be developed as housing for the developmentally disabled. Probably you don't need parking, as much parking because, they're unlikely to be driving cars. And right, and it's walkable to places like grocery stores, Whole Foods, or walking to Target. Plus, there's a bus. There's the 22 bus right on Stevens Creek.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So okay, so we are looking. Let me look at my other. So we're looking at a density of 30 units per acre for a total of 22 units. Okay, let me go to the public and see if anybody wishes to speak on this one. We have 2 people. Okay, Griffin number 1, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor Sharp. Mr. Sharp. Yes, this is an interesting site, and if we put it on the housing element, are we going to get ourselves in trouble? For, let's say, the current proposal is not going to pan out, and someone else wants to do something with it, et cetera, et cetera. You guys want to put a dog park, an off-leash dog park. Somebody wants to put in car storage. Who knows? What does putting it on the housing element site do to it? This is the part I'm concerned about, especially if we're upzoning the property, and HCD is going to have a cow if we're not building stuff at that density. HCD does not understand, does not care anything about our city, and I'm just worrying about that we're going to compromise this property by putting it on the housing element. And I'll just remind you, there's a BOFO new potential housing law that developers can put ADUs in new developments by right.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, next we have Peggy Griffin. Oh, okay, Peggy.
Thank you. I just would like confirmation that Site 3A, which is Tier 2, has been moved to North Blaney. It's not in Garden Gate.
Okay, let's.
I can speak to that. I believe we already have a building permit. Well, let me verify this one. 10193. We can move it to North Blaney for sure, but I did want to make sure that we didn't want to remove it outright. Because we already have a development proposal for a site at this location.
I'm not asking to remove it. I'm just asking to put it in the right neighborhood.
Absolutely, and that it can be done. But also, I wanted to suggest that maybe it be removed altogether because a single-family home is being built over there. We have a proposal for a single-family.
Okay, yeah, Peggy has brought this up multiple times that this is in the wrong neighborhood. I mean, how come it can never get fixed?
There's been multiple letters, multiple comments,
and also, if it's primed for development, why is it Tier 2?
We got a building permit on this 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Okay, so it's all so it can't be in the next housing element if there's it'll be counted in the current housing element, I presume.
It's not a new unit, so we don't get credit for it. But
that's right.
We are proposing an ADU on it, though, so we will get credit for the ADU.
Okay. Yes. All right, great. Okay, Lisa.
Okay, thanks. Just in the vein of clarification, and I just wanted to make a statement and ask a question. When you had your last meeting, there were 21 to 22 attendees at the beginning of the meeting, and by midnight there were only 8. Tonight there were 13, now it's down to 8. And the comment was made, purchased by Scott Conley about participation. And so just noting that, it's sad to me, but on the flip side of that, there were multiple letters sent today about the subject, and happily, there were, Andy reported 100 comments on the new
survey, which is awesome. But I just want to clarify that on that survey, it identifies people who are actual residents of Cupertino, and that number is divided and is noted in the survey results. Okay. And I realize that even if it is, we can't rely on the accuracy of it, but it's really important to me that this kind of makes sense. You got 100+ people doing the survey.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. You're out of time. Okay, so can we have a motion on this one? Wait, is there anyone else? Wait, let me bring it back. Sorry. Participant. Yeah, does anyone else want to speak on this if they oppose this? Tessa.
No, I'm just curious why it's here if it's not going to count for our next cycle and it's already got.
It does count for. We're not talking about the tier 2. We're talking about
3B.
Yeah.
3B, not
3. Okay.
Yeah,
so this. So okay.
3B.
I did have a question on that. So for the, it is slated for the mentally disabled community. Can it also?
Developmentally disabled.
Okay, sorry about that. Can we also include it? It does count towards that. There's nothing we are changing by putting it on this cycle, right?
I don't know what you mean.
We're not changing anything from its proposed, what it already has in place. Am I correct? Just want to make sure.
There is nothing in place right now. It is only, the only thing use is allowed on the site currently is transportation. And that's it, which is parking or streets and things like that. But the goal is to get it to where there has been discussions about the kind of housing and the number of housing units that can go on there. And the goal is to try to get that in place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Govind.
Yeah, I think the idea of having 30 dwelling units makes a lot of sense, because I think then it will qualify for low income and very low income. So that's one of the observations that I have. The other thing is I want to make sure, there was pardon me, PU, I think you mentioned that there's a proposal to dispose it off. Does it mean that some private party is interested in it, or is it something which will be post facto, like after we vote on it, will they kind of show interest?
It would continue to remain the city's property. I think we're just trying to figure out a way to achieve what the city council has expressed a desire to do, which is to create a site for developmentally disabled persons at the extremely low income level. That is the goal right now, and that is the goal that we're trying to achieve. It would still continue to be owned by the city. At this point, we don't know exactly how that agreement or mechanism will occur, in which another party will come in and construct what the city wants on it.
Oh, thank you very much. This is indeed a very good clarification. So my question is that should we go with 30 dwelling units per acre? Is that the right, or is it 50? What would be the right thing to do? That's my question, actually.
At this point, the way that it's designed is to kind of get to what has been discussed for the site. So I don't know that there'll be interest in developing more number of units just because the density is increased necessarily.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Oh, this keeps. The last person is Ray.
Yeah, Pew, thanks for the clarification. I thought that was helpful to understand the city ownership. I think my question is, I don't know a single developer that wouldn't be happy with a higher density if they could get it. I think the question was whether we could support 50 DU there. And I also kind of curious as to Griffin number 1's question about what happens in the view of HCD when this looks at different areas. So 2 questions. 1, can we support 50 DU, right, if we needed to? And then the traffic in that area is pretty tight. That is my big concern. If Westport building there, that will be a pretty hard spot. I think the access is that coming from the east side of 85, right? So It's the Mary Avenue access, right?
Yeah, I don't think
so-
I mean, yes, there's going to be a lot more traffic there than there is now. Presumably most of these residents will not be owning cars, but they may have, you know,
Visitors.
yeah,
They may
or
have visitors.
caretakers with cars, depending on how these are built. I don't know about, I wouldn't really want to go higher density. You don't want to be too high. You know, you have the sound wall back there.
Yeah, it'll be too out of character for
Yeah.
that trip, right? And
So I think 30 is fine.
Okay, cool. Let's make a
So,
motion for
yeah.
30. Go with what we have.
All right. Yeah. So make the motion, Ray, and let's vote.
Oh yeah, I make the motion to go
Okay,
with
I'll-
what staff has suggested for
I'll,
3B.
I'll second that motion. Let's vote.
Okay, Planning Commission Chair Sharf,
Aye.
Commissioner Maripatla,
yes,
Commissioner Wong,
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish,
I,
Commissioner Tadachari,
Aye.
and Commissioner Cunningham.
Aye.
Okay, passed unanimously.
Amazing. Okay. Andy, are we on the last one?
Yes, we are. And the last one is number 1.
Okay.
Preston Farley.
Creston and Farlap. Okay. We have
Yeah, the
let's
first
see,
two are tier 2, so
29
we're looking
units.
at
Okay.
C, D, and E for a total of 29.
CD. Okay.
These are
Okay.
all still relatively low density,
Okay.
with 1E being at 15. Okay. So here's 1C.
Okay. 1C, we are gaining 11. We're gaining 11 units with 1C.
One, see, could you show the others too? Okay.
This is that area behind, north of the post office, right?
Yeah, this is after the dip, right? So you
Got
go
it. After the dip.
after the dip, you climb up. On the right side, there is, Cupertino Road. It's that loop.
Not Adriana, not 1C. 1C is behind the post office. 1E is behind, well, sort of behind, it's sort of behind the dip.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
yeah,
then
right. One thing behind the post office, the other A, D, E, they're all, after the dip.
Okay, we're looking at
1C and 1E, we get it. And what about the 1D and
1D is off of Hillcrest. It is the flat part of Hillcrest.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is the flag lot off of Cupertino Road. My apologies.
Oh,
So what is with this? So 8.7 units per acre, that's kind of a weird number, isn't it?
I didn't want to ask it.
I think it's just because of what it generates. Andy, maybe you back calculated into that density?
And I thought that was staff recommended.
Mhm.
Yeah, we haven't discussed that, so.
I mean, it could go to 10 dwelling units to the acre. I wouldn't want it to be at such a weird
No,
number.
I'm glad we agree.
Isn't that a hilly terrain, that place?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Is that hilly slope area?
So the Cupertino Road site is not necessarily very hilly. It's the Hillcrest portions that are hilly. Those are the ones that we're not recommending move forward, which is 1A and B. Those are tier 2 sites.
So should it go to 10 or should it go to 7.5 or?
No, my question, can it go to 15 too? That's what.
15 would be, I would not recommend 15.
No, I've gone there. I've planted yard signs at all those homes. It's kind of a slopey area, that place.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I would not recommend 15.
Yeah.
I think we should go to the public.
Yeah, of course. Okay. see if anybody wishes to speak on this. Okay, we have 2 people. Welcome, Jennifer Griffin.
Thank you. Yes. Could you guys put up that one? There was one that floated by that was on North Foothill Boulevard. It looked like an office building. What is that exactly? Is that across the street from the Baptist retirement community? I mean, or from the retirement home?
Yes, it's across from Sunnyview.
Okay, so what is that building in there now? What is that, a house or an office?
It's an office building.
Office building.
Okay, so they're trying, and how many units are they trying to put in there?
I don't think there's owner interest from that one, but because we were looking for sites on the west side, this, and it was not a very large site, we recommended putting in 8 units on that site.
8 units, okay, and that would be townhomes maybe or something like that?
Something like that.
Okay, yeah, and if it's is it occupied or is it, because I remember when that building was built. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know about that. I'm really concerned about losing retail, but if you guys think that it's a potential for building, and I would think there might be fire danger back in there. I mean, we're getting up toward the hills back there. Thank you.
Okay. Next we have Lisa Warren. Go.
I don't have a problem with any of these, and I'm actually grateful that you found some properties to do some higher density in. So cleaning up those weird numbers, but just there's another weird number in the chart that you may want to clean up too, and that's 8D, which says 3.4 units per acre. Nobody mentioned that. I saw it and thought it was wonky, but if you're trying to get rid of that, you need to address that.
Okay, thank you. Back to the panelists. We have R. Wong going first.
Yeah, I think of all the sites that are there, like I in good conscience can't put anything higher density in some of those neighborhoods that are being suggested here, only because if you look at 1C, 1D, 1E, I mean, these are communities that were set up to be like estates. I mean, and so 1C, 1D, I just doesn't make any sense to me. But I like 1E as a placement for someone to look at. I think there is a law office there, or like a accounting firm, Van Pelt, E and James, or something like that was there. Not sure what they do, but that's there. So I would advocate splitting it out and really considering putting the attention on the half acre. That's the 0.62 acre at 100050 North Fort Hill.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree. I mean, I agree with what you said, you know, what these were intended for, but, you know, on the other hand, we are trying to, you know, meet our RENA and add some housing to the west side. You know, God knows we've added massive quantities to the east side. And so I would favor keeping all 3 of these sites in the tier 1. But let's see what other people have to say. But I don't see anyone else with the, oh, here we go. Mooney.
So I was wondering, you know, if 1C has, you know, opportunity for more, right? I agree with, you know, the other sites, you know, leaving them alone, given the surroundings and all that. But 1C seems like, you know, ripe for some, you know, row homes, you know, quite a bit, given that, you know, it's train tracks on one side and, you know, in the creek, and it's not, you know, picking into any single family homes, backyards, or nothing like that, right?
Yeah, I think that's true about Adriana. Okay, Connie.
I think I like these 3 properties. I guess it becomes pretty clear when you say this is the last thing we're going to discuss, that we're not going to be talking about the pipeline projects. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, the reason that I asked was because I think I have expressed my concern before, and I will again here before I close out, that displacement of so many people to build these units for a office, I mean, for a apartment building that has not yet started and they were approved in 2016. I was actually hoping we could find more units, 600 units to be exact, so that you didn't have to even deal with the Hamptons apartment.
Right. I mean,
so
I don't know if you've
it's
looked at the
disappointing.
Hamptons plan,
Yeah.
but you know, Irvine has a complete relocation plan during that construction. And yes, if we were only gaining a few units, we wouldn't want to do this, but we're gaining 600 units and a lot of BMR housing. And, you know, Irvine has
Yeah.
plenty of other properties. You know, no one's going to be put out on the street. You know, they have places, if the residents want it, they have places in many other developments for them to go and then come back later.
I
So,
see.
you know, I think displacement's the wrong word here.
Can I ask a
Personally.
question then? Because then there's the other thing, that this big east versus west. You know, I just find it interesting that the planning commission or the city council are in the least bit interested in giving the Hamptons even a scintilla of an option. Like once the two years is up, boom, gone, guys, and that there are tier 2 replacements. That's the part that surprises me the most, because there is a lot of passion around it, and I understand the passion around that the East gets, because they've got, you know, that's where that great big land mass was. So anyway, that's part of it. I do appreciate your response that you're thinking that those folks will not be actually displaced permanently in order to build this. But I have to admit, I'm also surprised that the Planning Commission, it doesn't seem to be a little bit more like, okay, how do we get the Hamptons to like just go away? I mean, you know, go away as a new project. They're a perfectly fine and wonderful apartment complex, but to stay as they are.
Yeah, you know, that was way back in the last housing element. And, you know, I hate to say it, but they have a big incentive now because our inclusionary requirement is now 15% since the Palmer fix.
Yeah.
And Irvine is, you know, not that interested in building affordable housing. If they let this approval expire and want to build something else, then, you know, they're up to 15% inclusionary, which they, you know, I would love, but I don't think they would appreciate. And it's still got, I guess, 4 more years. And, you know, I think it's being looked into to get a more definitive answer. Like, did you abandon this, or are you just delaying it? And when I talked to them in the past, it's, well, you know, we've delayed it because of construction costs. We have all these other projects we're working on in the area, but no, you know, we have not abandoned this. We're still planning to build, but that could change.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know.
Well, it was partially that. I mean, obviously, I'm very glad for your explanation about the displacement. I had certainly thought it was the other, which was all those people had to go find someplace else to live. But the other, I mean, one of the reasons that I spent so much time trying to figure out, boy, what could you do there over at Bub Road? And could you, you know, is there a reason why Apple might want to let go of that 9 acres? Because they don't need it anymore for their employees, because they're all working at home or whatever. I guess I took it quite seriously when Commissioner Tadachari put up the map and said, here, De Anza Boulevard, east, west, and all these homes here, and why not there? And I mean, I looked at the Crossroads, and I looked at that piece for Apple, and I thought, there, you know, if we could get enough other homes added up, then you wouldn't have to even worry about whether they wanted to proceed or not.
Yeah.
Anyway, that I have to admit, I spent a lot of effort on it, and I'm just a little surprised that and there isn't other emotion trying to push more out of either Crossroads, which does have some, absolutely. I mean, Commissioner Wang noted it last time, and I had noted it before. The business of Fontana's.
So you know, Connie, we'll have time for commissioner comments later. Why don't we just finish 1C, 1D, and 1E?
Okay, I like that.
Do that, okay?
All right.
So who else wants to speak on this? Govind?
Yeah, I wanted to speak. So, Chair, do I have your permission?
Yeah, go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. And then the thing is, I think 1C, 1D, and 1E all show are good properties to consider. So I still believe that because 1E is little short, a little smaller one, just 0.62 acres, I think the 15 density makes sense. It it could go higher, but I'm little bit not very sure about that. But the other two sites, I think it might be better to round it off to 10 unit dwelling units per acre. That might give us some little bit of boost here. So that's my recommendation is to reconsider a 1C and 1D at 10, and 1E, I'm open to other suggestions in terms of high density.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You know, Pew suggests we push those up to 10 from that weird 8.7. So yeah, I would agree with that. Ray, did you want to make a
Quick
motion?
question, what's the
to that?
Bate? Quick question, what's the Bate brothers density in that area? Because that's near that triangle, that area.
Bate
Just
is
wanted to make sure
11.
it's 11.
They developed at 11. It was
They
15.
developed 11. What were they approved for?
15.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, Mooney.
Yeah, so I think, 1C could go higher, 1D leave it at 8, 7, or 10, 1E could go higher. Because 1C, that spot is, between railway track and, and it's a narrow strip all the way through, right? So we could give, higher density there.
Wait, so you're saying 1C should go higher?
Yeah, like, 15 or 20 or something like that, right? It's a 1.4 acres.
Right, okay.
And
are you talking about higher than 10?
Yeah, because what's wrong with 15 density there, or 20 or 25?
Well, yeah, let our planning department say that. I mean, discuss that, because I don't really know where 8.7 came from, and it sounds like the planning department thinks it was EMC and EMC thinks it was the planning department. So does anyone know where that density came from?
Luke?
No, I think it was just something where it got rounded by staff at some point, looking at how many units the site could contain. And I would agree it should be a nice round number, whether that's 10 or 15. We should, for consistency's sake, not have odd figures like that.
From a perspective of whether this should develop as row houses or townhouses, I wouldn't suggest that given what's around it, but that is, again, this is the Planning Commission's recommendation. From my professional perspective, I would not suggest that these include row homes or townhomes, because it only has a very tiny driveway entrance on Adriana. It doesn't really have very good access off of Adriana.
So what are you proposing it be? Single family homes?
Correct. At R15 densities or R15 sizes, which is similar to what Rancho has.
Okay.
So like 50 by 100 lots.
So it's the driveway that's the constraint you're saying?
Correct.
It's a narrow driveway from
very narrow, yes.
From the cul-de-sac, it's like a one-way street. So if a car enters from here, the other car cannot start from the other end.
I mean, it's not that it couldn't. It's just it wouldn't be the best access for what maybe you're envisioning for it.
Okay. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, I see that narrow driveway, from the cul-de-sac end all the way to that, that.
There are also there are actually 4 other driveways that open onto that same cul-de-sac.
Right, so, but that's the independent homes, right? But
and also there are flag lots right next to it, west of it. There are at least 3 or 4 flag lots right next to it on the west side.
Question is, who owns the pool? Just kidding.
Yeah, let me see. Tessa, go ahead.
So, Pew, a question for Pew. So what's the maximum you recommend for this one?
So again, let me look at this. Give me 1 second. Let me just look at it and remind myself. The staff recommendation is R17.5 actually for this particular site, which is about 7,500 square foot lots with flag, with a flagpole and access and all that. It kind of does boil down to how many can you accommodate over here. So at I think we could go down to R15 as far as zoning goes, which would be 5,000 square foot lots. And that would get you to about 11 new homes, so about 12 homes total.
Okay, so 12 for 1C, is that 1C?
Correct, and that
Okay.
would be R15 zoning.
And then on the other one that was up by
Cupertino Road, that
Yes.
one's the flag lot. That also has one flagpole access.
right, and I was that 15 you suggested, Max? Because I
know we
kind of-
suggested, give me 1 second again here.
you suggested 8, but then someone said you said 10.
10. I was rounding it up to 10.
What's the maximum? Is that the maximum you think?
Correct. Yeah, that would be probably as many as that could go on there. About 11 units total.
Okay, and that's 1D.
Correct.
Okay, and then the other one was?
The other one we were suggesting would be similar to how the Bate Brothers developed. Bate Brothers also had a 15 dwelling unit per acre density, but they developed at 11. That was most profitable for them because they wouldn't have to do the BMR stuff and all that. There were things that they wanted to avoid.
But we could do, but you comfortably, you think 15 would, you said it was approved for 15, right?
I think that also comes from EMC, and David can also help. David, do you think that it could be developed at that 15 dwelling unit per acre? I think that number came from you.
Yeah, I think 15 is doable there.
15, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we got 1C at 12, 1D at 11, and 1A at 15.
So the densities would be 10 dwelling units per acre.
I mean, sorry, yes,
Right.
units.
For
Okay.
those two, and then 15 for this one.
15 for 1A. Okay, great.
1E.
1E. Okay,
The
good.
10 for 1C, 10 for 1D, 15 for 1E, and then change the zoning for 1C to R15.
Okay. Can someone make that proposal? I didn't quite catch that, but yes. Go ahead.
Before, I think that's a good gain of about 2 units there, just from that small change to 10 units. So I think I definitely like it. Does somebody want to make a motion, or do you want me to make the motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion for 1C to be upgraded to 10, 1D to be upgraded to 10 with a required zoning change, and then 1E as is. So
May I suggest something?
go ahead.
1C, the zoning would be R15.
Okay, so so along with the 10, zoning for 1C should be R15. 1D zoning will remain the same, but maximum will go up to 10, from 8.7 to 10. Same thing for 1C, and 1E no change.
Okay.
So one question: those single-family homes could also put in ADUs, right?
Yes, that's true of every single family.
Okay, yeah. To me, that density is too low, but I guess it seems like everybody. I would have preferred row houses, but or townhomes. But if everyone else is saying 10 per acre,
think
I'll go along with
The
that.
concern was the
Yeah, I know. I know the concern. But we're trying to increase the density and still get ownership housing. I thought it would have been better at higher density, but yeah, I'll go along with this. Does someone second the motion?
I think Commissioner Ray has.
Oh, Ray, sorry, you have your hand raised. Go.
One quick question. You were
sorry.
changing something new, which is the zoning description, and
Right.
1E. Did it stay at R3, or is it going to R15?
1E is not changing.
1E is not changing. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, I thought, did Ray, you lower your hand or do I not see it?
I was just lowering it just so that
Okay.
you already called on me. I'm fine with 1C being developed out, and I totally understand why the constraints are 1.5. I'm having a hard time with 1D only because like I don't live there, I have no interest there, I have nothing there. It's just in that neighborhood. I mean, that's just massively disruptive for that neighborhood. All the other decisions we've made to date, like took into account the neighbors around them, the lots, the type of units, the heights, the limits, the traffic, right? All the things, that were important. And 1D just, it'd be like the equivalent of like sticking, I don't know, a high density unit in the middle of seven acres or whatever, Seven Springs.
Seven
right?
Springs.
Seven Springs, right? It just, that doesn't fit. That's all. That's my only, like, if you split the vote to like 1C, 1E to vote on that, I'm happy to prove it. I just definitely, 1D doesn't make sense to me. So that's all.
Isn't there a higher something being built across the street that's pretty high density? Pew? No?
That is 1C.
Yeah, that's one.
There isn't anything.
That's 1E
over there.
Oh, okay.
Well,
it'd be like sticking an apartment building in the middle of Monte Sereno. I mean, that it doesn't make sense.
Let's vote on the motion. If it fails, we can come back and change, change 1D.
Yeah, I agree with Ray, to split 1D.
All right. Okay, I'll make a motion that we vote on 1E as is. 1C, we're going to change it to R1.5.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to change from 1C, change from 8.7 to 10 units per acre. And we're not going to vote on 1D right now. We'll come back to 1D and discuss it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so let's vote on 1C and 1E.
Okay, Chair Scharf.
Aye.
Commissioner Maripadla.
Yes.
Commissioner Wong.
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish.
Aye.
Commissioner Tadachari.
Aye.
And Commissioner Cunningham.
Aye.
Okay, pass unanimously.
Okay, so Ray, why don't you make a motion on what you would like to see on 1D instead of 10 units per acre or 8.7 or whatever?
I would basically like to take 1D off the list, but keep going.
May I offer something up?
Of course, you always may.
At the current land use density and the current, not the zoning, just the land use density, they could have 6 or 7 units on that property. So you could keep it at that current land use as a housing element site.
Yes, you can.
Could then be, we can figure out what the zoning needs to be, what the minimum lot sizes need to be, but at least they could have at least 6 units on there.
And ADUs.
And ADUs.
Yeah, that's R15, right? That's what it is.
No, it would probably be R1 7.5. I have to figure that out. I just haven't done
it. Like 7.5 is fine too, right? Because it just fits with the neighborhood and
we can figure the number out, but I think just with what they have in terms of land and the current land use designation, they can have 6.75 units on the site, I believe, at this point. So whatever it is, if you kept it on the list at the existing land use, it will have some yield, and we can figure out what that yield is.
Okay, but should we be changing the units per acre?
You wouldn't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
As is fine. I think you're just voting to keep it as is. So I'm okay with that.
Okay. So we're voting to keep 1D as is. No.
So
I don't think that's what you meant.
As
Ray.
is currently in the general plan.
Right, is currently in the general plan. Okay.
So I don't understand how with the R1.7, R7.5, R1775, how we can build 10 units on 1.35 acres.
It would not be 10 units. It would, like I said, be about 6 or 6.
Okay, so that means it changes from the density changes from 8.7.
The density would remain the same. Let's park the zoning in one spot because we'll figure what that number needs to be. But as long as the land use is at 5 dwelling units to the acre, you can get 6 units at least on this site.
Okay.
Okay, so you do want to
So
change
are
it to 5 units per acre.
It
So
is
we're
currently at 5.
Oh, it's currently at 5.
We were
Okay.
proposing to increase it to 10.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So we're trying to move 1D to as is, which is really 5. You're leaving it on the list as a tier 1 site, but we're getting the DU down to 5. Is that correct?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that's the motion.
All right, I'll second that. Luke?
Sorry about that. Chair Sharp,
Aye.
Commissioner Matipatla,
Yes.
Commissioner Wong,
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish,
Aye.
Commissioner Tadachari,
Aye.
and Commissioner Cunningham.
Aye.
Okay, passed unanimously.
Okay. So can we do the housing affordability and declining school enrollment? Who is presenting that?
Before we do that, can I ask a quick clarification question? This is from my notes from before, from like last meeting. It has to do with, do we move P8 to 6E, and is it reflected on this chart, or did something change? I can't remember what the clarification was.
That was the motion, sir, but it has not moved yet because we did not produce new documents for this meeting. But we will reflect that when we take this to City Council.
Ah, so we didn't do that yet. Okay, good, because that was my open item from today. Thank you.
Okay, so can someone present housing and you don't need to read every item on every slide. Let's just go through the slides.
I don't believe there was going to be a presentation, sir.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
That was just provided as information.
Oh, okay. So C, D, E, and F are also information, or what?
Andy?
Yeah, it's just the stuff.
These are attachments to the agenda.
Okay. I mean, I see this draft resolution here.
Yeah,
Correct.
That was all.
So if I may, Chair, if you recall, when we first started this item, the city attorney recommended that you make these motions by area so that you can move things forward.
Okay.
And then at the end, you would make one large motion to incorporate all these motions that you've made so far to recommend the sites based on your prior motions to the City Council.
Okay.
And we'll make the conforming edits and have you sign the resolution.
Okay. All right. So I will make that motion that we present to the City Council all the motions that we made in the meeting today and the meeting last Tuesday. I don't know if that's sufficient. These are from June 28th and July 5th. So we'll resolve that the two commissions sitting jointly recommend that the sites listed with all the modifications made be included in the City of Cupertino's 6th cycle housing element. Second, please.
Second.
Okay, Luke.
Okay, Planning Commission Chair Sharp.
Aye.
Commissioner Matipata.
Yes.
Commissioner Wong.
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish.
Aye.
Commissioner Tadachari.
Aye.
And Commissioner Cunningham.
Aye.
Okay, the
Great.
motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so we have no old business, we have no new business. Now we can have staff and commission reports. So I think this, Connie, what you were talking about earlier, I think this is the proper place to talk about that.
Okay.
So go.
Oh, this is the. Oh, yeah. So you're calling on me now.
Right, yeah, because you wanted to talk about, I guess, the Apple sites on Love Road.
Right. There were, a number of our from the Planning Commission's recommendations out to what the staff was trying to implement for this housing element. Had a couple of things. I mean, of course, everything's intention anyway, but they seem to be absolutely opposed, which is don't upzone, but go throughout the city, and those kinds of things. And so we didn't have anything from like 3 different housing elements, including Crossroads, which I live near. And I thought, well, it seems to me there were a few that could have been put on there. But a couple of them had been discussed. So I decided not to go into, say, the third one that I knew about. But so I just was wondering why those were so ground ruled out and why the Planning Commission didn't want to do them. But anyway, I thought, okay, what I'll try to do is come up with, I was going through everything. And when I saw that information about Apple and realized that the big companies use lots of factors for why they decide to do the different things they do, to bring up that the Apple company might want to do something more than the $2.5 billion worth of land allotments that they made earlier and a couple of years ago, which none of them came to Cupertino. Maybe they might be wanting to think of something more, because recent article on homelessness, even though Cisco and Google and Apple had put in $2.5 billion worth of land and money and other things, it still has only kept the homelessness down just the littlest bit. And it seemed to me this was a really good opportunity to work with Apple and find out if there wasn't some, I mean, not meaning they'd do anything for free, but that there's some mutual interest in them being able to get out of there and us have it. And the property owners being there may well want to build something that's available and that would also make them money and be good for the economy and all that. So I thought that was a good one, at least one try to get away from all of those homes over in the east, which people have, I mean, it's just been nonstop. From the people that speak to us, and then also amongst ourselves, that how much the East gets stuck with all the housing and the West doesn't. And to think that you wouldn't want to take something off the Hamptons. Just say, okay, you don't have to do it, not to worry. We just don't do anything. As a matter of fact, never mind. Just don't bother to do anything, guys, because we've got you covered. We've got all these other properties. And so do you not quite get why I'm surprised that you aren't more interested in the idea of moving things away from the Hampton and maybe taking that off of our housing element and putting other things in? That's the part that surprised me.
I mean, I think in terms of the Hamptons, Irvine wanted that approval and they agreed to the community benefits and all. And it's not saying that, telling them, oh, you don't have to do it. They already know they don't have to do it, but
I know
it seems like they want to do it, but they just didn't want to do it right away because of the rental housing market and construction costs and several other things. In fact, they originally asked for more, they originally asked for 750 more units. No. And I wasn't on council then, and it was, cut down to 600 more because the council at the time didn't want to have an excess number of units for, reasons that we're aware of. It's not a good idea to have too big of a buffer. But we've also, when I was in city council, I met with Apple and the real estate people. And we kept bringing up Bub Road. Why do you have all those old buildings on Bub Road? 1970s tilt-up buildings. I worked in one of them, 10300, many years ago, and it was terrible building back then. Oh, and I guess they've improved it a little bit. I worked for Timeshare at the time, but they just said no. We don't want to give up those leased buildings. It's like, it's never ending, getting more and more buildings. And you wonder, do they really need all that office space? And it would seem they didn't. But
I guess I would just rejoin on a couple of those things, like with the Hamptons. As we know, things get more expensive as time goes on. So why they would be wanting to wait is anybody's guess. Now, as far as Apple wanting to keep their hand on those particular properties, everything after we built Apple, or after they built Apple, after we approved Apple, anyway, everything got hugely more expensive, just because they're here. And that's just the way it has been for the last, whatever, decade since they have come here. And so it isn't going to change. And they might be wanting to hold on to it because it's getting more expensive. And the more you wait, the more expensive it gets. I'm not a finance person, but that I can understand. Just because my own home, I moved here for the schools. And homes were more expensive here because of the schools. And of course, there was engineering talent and all that with the different companies that were here. But our house didn't start really going off the charts as far as what it would sell for until Apple was approved. I didn't get it then, but I get it now. I get it now. Apple is the reason everything is so expensive. It's like we got diamonds or something, and we've got people that they're making money hand over fist, and it's just very, very difficult to rein that in. So,
well, I mean, it's not just
I'm just saying
Apple.
that I don't understand why the Hamptons. Well, I mean, if they wanted to build, you'd have thought they'd have done it back when things were cheaper, but they didn't. So I can't understand them, but I can understand Apple, perhaps.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak? Go ahead, Mooney.
I just had a question to PU on what P8 is going to turn out to be.
The commission had voted P8 to be 20 dwelling units per acre.
Okay.
And to be moved to tier 1,
Tier.
not as a pipeline project.
Okay, with the 20 dwelling units, and so since it's it's 1 acre, so some kind of a row homes or something like that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
All right, Govind.
Yeah, I needed to unmute myself. So my first question is that now that we have kind of decided on things, can I get the totals now in terms
very good. I was going to ask that.
LI, VLI, and just the market rate and above market rate?
No, we don't really know the distribution, just the total number of units, right?
Yeah, we know LI, VLI because we know which are 50 with a dwelling units, 50 dwelling units per acre. So that probably gives us the LI, VLI figure too.
We still have to, I believe, and Andy is the one that has the magic on this. We do have to, we can't account for all of it in the VLI category, even if the density is above 30 dwelling units per acre. But Andy, do you want to take that question?
Well, as with other things we've discussed, it's a complicated combination of things that we need to look at in order to come up with our analysis. But we'll have that going forward in working with council. So as they look at these numbers, we'll be getting closer to understanding what that distribution will look like among these sites.
My next follow-up question would be, will we have knowledge by the July, was it the 20th? Some date we had discussed, would we have the knowledge of how many units we are talking about?
How many total units? Oh, I'm sorry.
Total and the breakdown to VLI and LI, because what I'm trying to figure out is that did we do the right distribution on the west and east side? That's one thing. The other thing is that generally, are we meeting the goals that is required in terms of whatever we are RENA wants us to do?
Yeah, let me just try to answer. When we started this, the tier 1 sites were at 1,871. So we had a buffer built in that was about 26, 27%. So the concern was that as you went through the properties, you took sites off or you lessened the density, we would need to pull in the tier 2 sites. So as we've gone through and made the changes, I've calculated it, and I could be off slightly, but you actually added about 45 units. So you're not in a position to where you're having to get more units because you lessen the buffer. So you
Right.
probably are now closer to 30. HCD is recommending 15 to 30%. So right now, the units, if you were to, all the sites that are recommended at the densities recommended to be developed at, you're in the upper 20s, close to 30%. So you added about 40 to 45 units from when we started last week.
Right.
We get an A+ for our efforts.
Right. But, as was pointed out, we will not know the, LI and VI and moderate and market rate yet.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that depends on what kind of density bonuses that, when these are developed, that the property owners take.
Yeah. So the second part of my this thing is actually I'm also very curious, just as Commissioner Cunningham is. I think we need to know the intent of holding on to properties. Typically, it's one of the reasons, other than having Apple among in our city, which is indeed a very great thing for us to do, except that we don't get enough tax revenues the way it is right now. But anyway, the thing is that when they hold on to certain properties, I mean, it is very difficult for households to compete against institutional investors, against corporations, etc. It's very difficult. So I think in some sense, if there's a way for us to, we can't persuade it. So after all, a private this thing, but because they have leased it, they have a lease on that. Definitely, the owner doesn't want to sell it, so we are not able to take benefit of that. I mean, we can wait till the next housing element cycle, but I'm just saying that that's something of concern because eventually I don't know how RENA will change between this housing element cycle and the next, but it's one of the things that bothers a little bit. I think overall, I'm very happy the way we have done these things. I'm very happy that we had the advantage of Andy being able to bring in his perspective. I understand SCD requirements much better. We know what we can do as a city. So I really appreciate the help that the planning department has been able to clarify, and also from Andy's team. I mean, I think it's been very educational, though it's been challenging, but it's very educational. Thank you.
Okay, Ray, before we go to you, this is an agenda item on which the public can comment, and I should have done that earlier, but I do see one attendee, now two, would like 1 minute. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thanks. So I appreciate Connie's effort to come up with something creative, and I kind of hope that between now and City Council there'll be more of that kind of thing to suggest. And I would say it's not just on Bub that this same conversation could be held with Apple. They camp out at a lot of the Bansley Drive sites, which are prime sites for housing, I think. Given what we have to accomplish to please HCD. So thank you, Connie, for doing that, and for people being willing to listen and think outside the box. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Jennifer.
Thank you, Chair Scharf. I appreciate what Connie's saying, but remember, there's a lot of tech land across Silicon Valley, even here in Cupertino, that have had other tech companies on it since 1970. You had manufacturing over in that area. And when you have manufacturing, you have the potential of soil contamination. Not that it was intentional, et cetera, but there may be reasons that certain tech companies sit on sites. You cannot put housing on every site, contrary to what Buffy Wicks seems to not understand is, And I'm really, really concerned about this lack of understanding. You cannot take every piece of property that has had industrial sites, tech parks, shopping centers, gas stations, and by right ministerially and put housing on them. It doesn't work that way. So that needs to be brought up. Anyway, thank you.
Bye. Okay, next, let's go back to Tessa.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered if we're going to have, if housing, I'd like to suggest that we have another session where we have maybe before presenting these to City Council, that we come up with some policies that we'd like to suggest. This wasn't, I don't want to take credit for my wonderful ideas, just that back in 2000, the last cycle, housing element, actually housing was the one that led the first round of site selection and had proposals for policies to change. I've been taking notes on what policies I'd like to recommend that would go along with this, that would help with this, the housing element. And just wondered if we're planning on having another one, or is this it before it goes to council?
I don't think we had planned, but you know, when is this going to council? Is there time for?
This goes to council on July 19th. The packet needs to post next week, and I think we will need the next week to kind of refine the planning commission's recommendations and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I do think, there's not time, but of course we are all free to comment at the city council meeting.
Yeah.
And
are we going to recommend that we do that we be present or joint sessions? I think Mayor Paul had maybe had mentioned having joint session with planning or housing to expedite it because they're behind in case they had any questions. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, we can, I can talk to the mayor. You can talk to the mayor and suggest that.
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Ray.
Thanks. Thank everybody for getting this far. I think this was a great effort. I know a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into this, and it's important. I'm glad the staff stepped up to aid the consultants. I think that was useful. I'm still not happy with all the work from the consultants, but I think we eventually got to it. I know everybody's tried and put in some extra effort and there's some context, but I think staff really stepped up, and I really appreciate that. And I think that's important. Luke, I think great job there. Congratulations, Pew. Thanks for the context. I agree with Tessa. I went back and I heard something that we did this in 2014 and it's every 8 years. And I went back and looked at some of the videos as well with Tessa. Housing Commission should be leading this effort. We should not be relegated to the back end. I have no idea why that wasn't set up that way, but it should have been like that in the beginning, and we shouldn't have waited this long to get consultants. On the notion of Apple, they've left us. They put $1 billion into RDU, $1 billion into North Austin. There's 22,000 people being employed there. So I don't think we can always count on Apple being here. So I'm really, really worried about retail tax revenues, food, drug services, gas stations, services that are going to be available. So I think we should always keep that in mind. It's great you have all this housing and no services. What are you going to do? And so I think it's important to preserve the balance of affordability, quality of life, and to make sure that housing costs don't get out of control. And I think we've done a good job there. I do have one regret in this process. We probably got like 70 letters. I don't know what people were doing, but we got a whole bunch of letters, and hopefully we can read those to council from the residents and share those. Granted, 80% of them were form letters, but I think they're trying to make their point. And I felt we did not get to that. And I think not everybody got a chance to read that and share that. So that's about it. But great job, everybody. And I'm glad we got to here. So.
Well, Ray, I mean, we don't read all the written communications that are sent in. And as you stated, I think at last count, I got 15 identical letters. I should.
We selectively read letters last meeting, and that's what I was my issue.
But that it would be nice. It would be wonderful, rather than people receiving something to send on to us, if they actually wrote their own letters and actually researched what they were saying, because it's kind of depressing to get 15 letters, all with the same exact text, all incorrect. And
All
it's not.
incorrect. We did get those
Yeah.
too. I agree. But yes.
And that's too bad to get that. And as a city council member and also as a mayor, I can just tell you when we get 50 letters all with the same incorrect information, it doesn't. It has no effect.
But HCD will see the passion of other letters.
Yeah, we do see the passion of, and I was glad to see other letters come in later that were well thought out. Okay, next is on to Connie. Go.
Okay, I did want to say thank you. I would keep thinking, when am I going to say thank you to people? I wanted to say thank you so much to the staff and to EMC, especially Andy, for the work that they have done on this housing element. I found, as I said before, that we have so many balancing things that we're trying to do, and it's just a really remarkable job to pull that together, knowing that these laws that were passed this year were incredibly more difficult than the laws that they had in 2014. So I want to thank all of the staff and the EMC consultants. And I did want to say thank you to all the commissioners and to the chairs, both, for all of the input and the thought that went into the different comments that went in. I guess, as always, I'm left with one last thing I need to say. I guess I would take a little issue, Chair, with your comment that form letters aren't regarded. We continually get as citizens that we should be contacting our council, and we should be this. Emails matter, being in person matters more. If you can at least just get your name in there so that they know, because each one of those letters has a different name on it. And each of those people have taken the time to write to you. And I mean, you should be happy. We in the Housing Commission don't get nearly this many letters, like, hey, look, people are talking to you. Oh, you're so nice. So I guess I would say, as a resident, it rings a little odd that we are constantly told that if we could just get in our comments the way we think about it and from our perspective, so that you could at least think about them and see, like maybe there's an error, maybe there's something else. But I hear errors too. But you try to think through what is this person trying to say? And so anyway, I guess I would please ask you not to disregard people who write in when they actually take the time. Any kind of
if somebody writes in with their opinions, on an issue, that's great. But when someone just takes something that was sent to them and someone says, hey, send this in, and the person sends it in without even understanding what they're writing, I mean, that just doesn't seem right to me.
Excuse me, sir, but why do you think they don't understand it? They've read before they signed it. What makes you think that each person who signed that letter and hit go and had their name, their address, and all that, what makes you believe that they didn't think that was right and that they wanted to join in, but they didn't themselves have the time to sit and write? I'm saying I'm not agreeing with you at all about
I understand.
Form letters or people coming and talking when we're in real life again someday. When you've got 10 people come in and they say, rah, 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 and then the next person comes in, me too, rah, rah, rah. It's very similar. It's very similar. So I really want to go on record that I do disagree, and I hope you change your mind at some point.
Duly noted. Okay, Mooney.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I would like to thank the staff and the consultants and my fellow commissioners for the work and the diligence and sitting through all the ups and downs. I know we are not an easy bunch to work with, so staff, thank you for putting up with us. Right, so we are very demanding. So I do want to comment, for residents, that participated, spent time. Thank you for all the corrections that you sent our way and all that stuff. And also, I know it's been frustrating at times, because not everybody is getting, everything they want. And I see a lot of frustration directed towards, being forced into doing this. My ask is, please take your anger on the people that are like, passing all these laws, right? Because we are just doing what we can and what we are expected to within the framework of, what's needed. So we understand your frustration, and anger, but I think, we should really, if you're looking for change, the change needs to happen at the Sacramento level, not, at the Cupertino level, right? So thank you. Thanks for your.
Okay, Tessa, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but being that Connie was so willing to make that comment and kind of bring that up, I just wanted to bring up the comment that Commissioner Cunningham had a 2-minute dissertation on why the Housing Commission should not be involved in this process. And so I just wanted to say that we don't want to bring these kind of things up to the meeting. I didn't find it nice to bring up that kind of a comment. Thank you. Right. I wanted to thank everyone for this and everyone's comments as well, equally. But, we're going to be candid. Let's do that.
But let's finish up Govind and then Andy. Oh, you lowered your hand, Andy. Okay.
Yeah,
so Govind, be brief.
Very brief. Essentially, I forgot to thank the public. I definitely want to thank the public. All your inputs are very educational to us because we would like to make sure that we represent the residents of Cupertino. So whatever, contrary to what many people think, though there are repetitions, I do try to go through as many emails as possible, but I'm not supposed to speak about them, so I don't talk about them, but I do go through them. And I think we would like to, we really appreciate, because without your input, we cannot make judgment calls. So please provide your inputs. It's very important because it helps not only the planning department as well as the consultant, also helps us to understand the city better so that we can do our job better. Thank you.
Okay. Andy, you had your hand raised and then lowered. Did you want to say anything?
Oh, just briefly, I just want to remind the public and all commissioners here that we're leaving the balancing act up and available for comments and for submittals of a full housing plan, and also our surveys on the website. So we're leaving it up through July 12th for those comments to then be folded in and carried forward to the council meeting. And Chair Parrish, I just want to commend you for thinking about policies and getting your list together and getting started with that. We highly value that and can't wait to work with you on that and the whole of the Housing Commission. But I do want to also just state a reminder and have some shared expectations. So this council meeting, we're really hoping pretty quickly here we can get this list going so that the CEQA process, which often takes up to 9 months at best, and that we initiate that process. We do have on the 20th, we have an outreach meeting that we're hoping feeds into the policy discussions. So we hope that everybody can attend that. It's going to focus on both the youth and older adults in Cupertino, and we've got an amazing lineup of new members of the public to come and speak and be part of a panel, and we'll have even more breakout session opportunities. And in our last one, we found that a lot of people walked away having some new seeds of ideas for policies. And when those policies can come directly out of the experience of meeting with and talking with people who have housing need in your community, that's what HCD sees as just golden. When we stand out with something that's specific to Cupertino, they see that, they recognize it, and they acknowledge that we're doing what they're asking us to do. I just really want to thank all of the commissioners today. Thank you for all of the input and for helping us move forward.
All right. Thank you, Andy. And if there's nothing else, that is all we have on the agenda. We're not setting a future agenda. So if there's nothing else, let's adjourn before midnight.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Thank
goodbye,
you.
everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Everybody.